Today we're going to compare the Blackmagic camera app to the Final Cut camera app. Let's first take a look at the form and function of these apps. First, the Final Cut app. So the top right-hand corner of the app, you'll notice a camera icon with a couple squares. That's to do multicam recording. And to do multicam recording with this app, you're going to need another iPhone, or if you have an iPhone and an iPad, you can do multicam recordings. It makes it easier to work with the footage later in Final Cut. Also, it's worth noting that this is the Final Cut app on the phone or iPad, not the version of Final Cut that you're using on your iMac, your Mac Studio, your laptop. It's also worth mentioning that when you rotate the app this way or this way, depending on if you're holding it in your left hand like I am, your screen will look like this. If you're recording in your right hand, your screen will look like this. First up, we have our codecs. We can do ProRes or H.265. SDR or HDR, you're choosing a resolution of 4K, 1080, or 720. Your frame rate is 24, 25, or 30 in 4K. It'll open up to 60 in 1080 resolution only. So you have the magnifying glass with the plus icon. That's where you can do zooms or choose your lenses. Tap this arrow at the bottom. It opens up more options for us. The top one that looks like a light bulb is your white balance. You can press on the icon itself and go to the various presets of daylight, shadow, cloudy, tungsten, your typical white balance presets that you would see on any camera. Next up is your shutter speed and ISO. So you can set that to auto, but watch what happens here on this sunny day. My ISO is at 64. Okay, that's fine. But look at my shutter speed. It's 1/500th to 1/1000th. That's a little bit higher than what I want. If I'm doing any movement, if subjects are moving, it's going to be very choppy. You're not going to get any smooth motion blur. And the fix for that is an ND filter. When I put the ISO to 200 and the shutter speed to 1/90th or 1/100th, here's what my image looks like. Now I'm under shade, but it is a sunny day outside. It's mid to late afternoon. Everything's blown out, but here it is with the ND filter on. This is a variable ND, so I can dial in or out how much neutral density I want to add to this image. So next up is my autofocus, or manual focus if you prefer. With the manual focus, if you're going handheld, you're going to get this shaky image. It's a little hard to dial in because it's not like you're changing focus on a lens, you're actually focusing up and down on a phone. I'm okay with the autofocus because what I can do is tap where I want my focus to go. So in this case, if I want the foreground in focus, I tap, and the background, I'll tap again for that. The last icon is if you are going to be doing any movement and you don't want it to switch into portrait mode, you can lock it left or right, depending on which way you're holding it. So that way, as you're rotating the camera, it stays horizontal. But if you are shooting vertical, then you want to unlock that so that you can shoot vertical. Next up is the Blackmagic camera app. If you look at the top display of the app, if you tap on any of those functions, that's where you make the adjustment. Frame rate, shutter speed. Your f-stop's going to be fixed because that's how it is on your phone. We have our ISO, white balance. You have the option to hit auto or dial it in yourself. So far we're looking at the same forms, functions, and features. Where the Blackmagic app excels is it's going to give you more display functions. If I hit this icon in the bottom left, it's going to give me the option to do exposure peaking, focus guides. I can put up grids. So I can put up a thirds grid. I can put up a center crosshair. I can also set my frame guides. I can also get a little more specific and put up different display ratios. One of my favorites to use, not only on this app, but on any camera that I use, is the false color grid. So you get a nice display of what's overexposed, what's in shadows. That's really key to have. So you also have a histogram that shows you not only your color balance, but where your exposure settings are. This is where all your media goes. And of course, it does sync to the Blackmagic cloud. Now, under settings, we have a lot more options here than what we have with the Final Cut Pro app. So under codec, not only do we have H.265 and Apple ProRes, we have the different variants of Apple ProRes, from proxy all the way to 422 HQ. Under camera, there are so many different options you can choose from. Same with your audio. Your monitor is basically how much of the opacity of any of the guides or focus peaking. You can import LUTs if you want to display LUT on what you're shooting, options for your media, and of course you can save all this to a preset. If you're using any Bluetooth accessories, you have the option to link those as well. The Blackmagic app has a little bit of stabilization built into it. Let's go back to the Final Cut camera app footage. I'm hand holding this, and I'm obviously tapping the screen, making adjustments. So it's not the smoothest looking footage in the world. And let's take a look at the Blackmagic footage again. This is also handheld. So you have 3 different layers of stabilization with Blackmagic. You have standard, cinematic, and extreme. No matter which app you're recording on, I highly recommend that you use the default lens, which is the 24 or 26 millimeter. When you open up your camera, it's the default lens. The reason for that is that lens has a better bit rate, it's better quality than the front camera, the wide angle, or the close-up. The workaround to this is to use lens adapters that will give you the wide angle, that will give you a telephoto or macro. Now, if you're posting to Instagram or TikTok, this may not matter. Where it matters is something like YouTube, anywhere where someone might be watching on a bigger screen. So who are these for? First of all, they're both free. You don't have to worry about a subscription or a one-time fee. The Final Cut app, you have to be on an iPhone to use that. So that eliminates a certain audience. If you're someone who uses the Final Cut application, it'll work easily with the iCloud. You don't have to worry about moving footage over. The Blackmagic camera app is definitely geared more towards the seasoned shooter. It's going to give you more flexibility, dialing in proper exposure, the proper color balance. Definitely invest in the ND filter, as we mentioned. Definitely invest in different filter adapters to use on there, and have fun with it. Once again, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Are you using either one of these apps, and what are your thoughts on them? And remember, be kind in the comments, please, and we'll see you next time. Peace.